Welcome to the Sales Dojo podcast. The podcasts are here to help you address the real issues salespeople face every single day.
Hey Susie, how are you?
I'm all good. I'm just checking that we are recording because I didn't get the normal notification that we're recording.
Yeah, so when you use 2,354 note takers in your meetings like I appear to be doing these days, it does it as soon as you open it up, I've noticed.
Amazing. That's good to know. For anybody who's interested in this, Leon does like a note taker.
Yeah, you just reminded me I forgot to set my external note taker up, so I'm just going to press the button and get to do that as well. It's actually really good. Granola's really good. So Granola, if you're listening and you want to sponsor the podcast, give us a shout. But yeah, Granola's really good because it makes it look like I'm listening to people I'm having meetings with a lot.
Oh wow. Sounds like one that I need to get.
It is really good, actually. It's free, by the way. But basically we're doing an advert for it now. But fuck it, we'll anyway, because it is really good. Yeah, you can have it on your phone or your watch. I have it on my watch as well, just in case I need to record a conversation. And it summarizes it. It's free. If you want to keep the notes after 30 days, then there's a small subscription of less than $15.
Oh, wow. I might have to look into that.
It's really good. I'll send you the notes in a minute after we've had the meeting, and you'll see that it also categorizes all of the stuff and puts stuff in columns rather than just sending you the whole transcription. It summarizes, which is good.
I am excited to try that out. I'm always up for a good note taker. So,
well, listen,
thanks.
You're listening to This Week in Sales, sponsored by Granola. It's just me and you today, Susie, because Chris is off gallivanting this time. Where's he? Hong Kong, Taiwan?
I think he's in. I'm trying to remember the name of his town that he lives in the Lake District.
Yeah, I can't remember it either. But Chris is at home.
Wennington.
Yes, I think it might be. Yeah, you think it might be. He's got the folks around anyway. That's why he's not hanging out with us, because he's got much more important things to do and talk about coin collecting with big Mr. Dawson, which sounds like much more fun.
Absolutely. I would be prioritizing Chris's parents as well if I were him. So well done, Chris.
Definitely. Yes. Look, if you've not heard Swizz before, every week Susie, Chris and I share posts that we like off LinkedIn predominantly, but other social media platforms are available. And we try and dissect them for you, our listeners, so that you can get the really good stuff that's been talked about this week in sales. So, Susie, let's go early on your first one. And it's Ashley Early. See that link? That was unbelievable, wasn't it?
I loved it. Great segue into the first post here. I'm going to say it's a little bit controversial, and it's not usually a post that I would share in the group, right? Normally, I reckon this kind of thing comes from you or from Chris normally, but it intrigued me. Shall I tell you why?
Yes, please do.
Well, the first thing that intrigued me was, Ashley, I follow you and I really like your posts. So Ashley Early is a sales leader, cheerleader and champion, as she describes herself. And she opened her LinkedIn post with these words: I'm a 2-time runner-up on the Miss America circuit, and I've helped companies hire booth babes. Let me tell you why this email pisses me off.
Yeah.
So this got my attention because I have never been anywhere close to being a Miss anything when it comes to beauty pageants. But I also have been involved in not booth babes, but what do you call them? The Formula One girls.
Don't know what's that thing next to Formula One. It's the pit. So the pit girls.
Pit girls. That's it. Yeah. So when I was an intern for, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the companies or not, so but I was an intern for a company that used to sponsor the Porsche Super Cup, which ran in parallel with Formula One at Silverstone and et cetera, et cetera. And I remember it was hugely exciting at the time. The marketing manager asked me to pop into the high street in Slough, yeah, very high quality, and buy the pit girls outfits for them to wear. Wow. And I had to I basically had this brief, which was it had to be as sexy as possible. So I got short leather skirts and some high boots or heels. And yeah, anyway, I don't think you do that nowadays. I don't think that happens as much. But I thought this was an interesting conversation to have about like beauty in sales and whether we agree with what Ashley's posted. Now, she's taken complete and utter umbrage with this particular approach, Ashley, so good for you. But I'm kind of interested what you think about this, Leon, and I would have loved to have heard Chris's opinion as well. So she writes that a colleague of hers got an email earlier today, and she shared a screenshot of it, which I'll talk about in a moment. And she has permission to share this email as well. And it was a legitimate company that offers models to join your Zoom calls on the theory that buyers don't want to look weak in front of a gorgeous woman. So she's blocked the company name and everything to keep them protected. But she says, look, I'm naive, but the email makes me want to take a shower. It feels really disgusting. She used to be paid to be some of these girls, like a Bond girl at a country club party, etc., etc. So she kind of knows the gigs that happen. But I just thought it was really interesting, this like theory of have an attractive person in your meeting and it puts somebody under pressure to buy. Now, I'm not saying that this is something that we should start doing or that people should adopt, but I thought it was like just an interesting conversation in general. Now, the email is written like this. So it's kind of like a cold email. It's like, hey there, and I won't use names and stuff, but hey there, you sell positioning to fractional execs who hit a ceiling because nobody owns their narrative. You're on the call owning yours, live, alone. Not going to make it. We add a stunning woman to the call. She joins, says little, looks expensive. He signs, no man wants to look cheap in front of a stunning woman. Primal, predictable, business only. We built a service around it, the halo effect with an invoice attached. Your competitors bring slides, you bring her. Guess who's going to win? Our first vetted women are ready, want fast access, click on this link, blah, blah, blah. Now, it's a kind of a cheap email and stuff, but it just... Leon, give me a male perspective here. Like, are there any legs in this?
Literally. Yeah, look, I mean, for me, when you shared this, there was two things. One, the messaging shite on that email, and that's probably what I'm more pissed off about, is the fact that the messaging's crap on it. Little words on one lines without capital letters. It just doesn't scan or read well, and it looks pretty cheap. And that was more the issue that I took with it. As human beings, we are driven to pay more attention to attractive people. There's nothing that we can do about that. This is our brains evolving for hundreds of thousands of years to like physical symmetry and nice hair and nice teeth and good genes and reproductive fitness. This is a fact. So if attractive men or women, regardless, or they or them's, whatever it is put in front of someone, evolutionary survival means that health indicators like clear skin, bright eyes, facial symmetry, historically signaled a strong immune system and lack of disease. So inbred in us is this desire to see that and think there is authority around it. You know, in terms of mate selection, if we want to go there, we maybe don't, but humans quickly scan others to assess potential. So we'll look at someone and assess if they are someone who might be potentially a mate. And then the other stuff around it is around like group cooperation. So we associated healthy appearance with reliable allies. So when we seen someone who's healthy, we would assume that they would be a reliable source of allyship for us to be able to make sure we didn't get ate by saber-tooth tigers or attacked by other tribes of people. So this is just natural stuff. And you mentioned before the halo effect, that cognitive bias. It's a mental shortcut where we assume if someone has one positive trait, i.e. looks good, then they must have other positive traits. So that's why a suit works really well for someone who's or smartly dressed. People make an assumption, they go, right, okay, they've dressed well, so therefore they must know what they're talking about. So there's loads of reasons why it works. I think you need to be careful what you're saying here. In this day and age, when there is lots of equality and EDI and stuff like that, we have to be careful how we talk about this kind of stuff. But it's not unusual for this to be something that can be used to influence other people's decisions, which is what we are doing as human beings. You know, what's the difference between an attractive person or someone who dresses well? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be around a sexual thing. i.e. it's a woman with big boobs and long legs, or it's a guy with abs and big shoulders. It can just be something that we use to influence people. So I always find it interesting. It's almost a taboo subject. It's almost that people don't want to talk about it, but like it's just something that's happened for hundreds of thousands of years. So why would we not try and use it to influence decisions? There's a reason why they have these kind of things set up in lots of scenarios, whether that's ring girls at the boxing, the guys are like that. There's an attractive woman. I'm taking notice of that. Whether it's wearing a suit, whether it's brushing, no one goes to a meeting looking like they've brushed their hair with a toffee apple, because if you brush your hair nice and you put your mazzy on and you shave and you look presentable, therefore people go, looks presentable, therefore they must have other qualities. So I think it's okay to maximize that. I think my issue with this is the fact that it's actually a pretty crap message to sell it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you've just said there. Like, so I don't turn up to deliver training wearing shorts, a vest, and flip flops. Like,
Yeah.
I choose my outfits. I choose to go smart casual or business casual. Typically wear a suit jacket, and those kind of things, depending on the audience, of course. And I put thought into what I choose to wear, so my appearance, before I go to do training. What I don't do though is I don't go over the top. So for me, it's important that I'm still me, and so I look authentic to me. So I don't suddenly go, I don't know, go to the hairdressers and go to a professional makeup artist to get my hair and makeup done before I do a training. I do my own slap and brush my own hair, and it's imperfect, but it's authentic, because people need to buy into me as well and what I'm saying. And if my image doesn't match then how I speak and what I'm saying, then people will doubt me a lot quicker. So that's kind of what I'm saying about, like, I do put thought into it. I guess this feels a bit extreme, and I'm kind of questioning the male exec in the room in this particularly stereotypical, or is that the right word? They're basically playing on stereotypes here, aren't they? So,
well, I'm not sure that they are. I'm genuinely not sure that they are. I think offense can be taken to think it is, but our brain has natural reward systems that it uses. So it's scientifically proven that looking at an attractive face gives the brain pleasure, and reward centers, specifically the orbital is it called the orbital frontal cortex, and the dopamine pathways. So looking at something that's naturally beautiful gives you brain rewards like that. Equally, visual tracking has been proven that if someone's attractive, someone looks at that for longer. Like this is proven. So you would give more attention, you would look at it for longer. So that's just using the fact that things happen to your positively for what you do.
And I get that, and I get if this is the strategy to get attention or to keep someone's attention for longer in a meeting so that you can actually sell them something, then that's one angle. What this is suggesting, though, is that actually having that attractive woman sitting in the room takes you all the way to signing on the line, because the man doesn't want to look foolish by not signing in front of it. And I think, I question, I would like to think that most execs are in the position they are in because they've proven that they can critically think, amongst other things. So that's kind of where I'm questioning it a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at the positive, or trying to see the good in everything rather than that. Yeah, look, this is not an uncommon thing that people would say. Here is a way to get people to say yes. Like this is, there's loads of people making money online with this bullshit, and because a red pill or a blue pill making you slim and slender or look better or look younger, and the shortcut to everything is what lots of people will always take, it's going to sell. But if that's how we sell, we'll get buyer's remorse. We'll get people making a decision purely on emotion and not using any logic. And that leads to cancellations, and that leads to changing their mind. And that leads to maybe putting them in a bit of a spot and then making a decision to do something, but then never actually using the product or service as it's meant to. So therefore, instead of becoming an advocate and getting you more clients and getting you referrals, they become a detractor and someone who talks ill of it. So if we fool, coerce, I don't know, whatever turn of phrase we're going to use someone into doing a decision based purely on emotion, it's always going to be fraught with danger.
No, I get that. I get that, Leon. I think, yeah. Anyways, I just thought this was a really interesting take, and I'm trying to think like, what's the useful things that we can take out of this as salespeople, regardless of what we're doing and how attractive we might be. Is be authentic, take or put thought into how you're showing up visually as well as verbally, because people will judge us very, very quickly before we've even opened our mouth to say anything. So it's important to be thinking about these things as part of our preparation when we're going into meetings or trying to get new clients, etc.
Yeah, look, there's 1,001 cliches about it, but you can never get a second chance to make a first impression is so true. As human beings, we make a decision on whether we like someone instantly, and we look for all the reasons why we were right. So if someone looks well turned out, looks clever, looks interesting, looks whatever, we decide we like them, and then we look for all the reasons right. And we also sometimes ignore them red flags that should have popped up. You know, we've seen it before. Someone's kind, someone gets catfished online, someone gets coerced by someone gets ad off by the Tinder swindler. All of that kind of stuff happens because we are effectively emotional animals. I've said it 100 times. We're just cavemen with iPhones. Like, we react purely on emotion, and we try and ratify with logic all the time.
I'm still looking forward to reading that book when it comes out.
Yeah, I will definitely finish reading it reading it one day. Definitely, 100%. Okay, next post of yours is from Miriam Sawari, I'm going to suggest, but maybe I've got that wrong.
Yeah, this was a post that I saw in German, actually. So, Leon, if you don't know, you can hit the C translation button, and it translates it into English for you. Look at that.
No way.
Look at that.
No way.
Yeah. Mariam, I really this post kind of caught my attention because of the passion behind it. And in a way, this is also going against lots of the messaging that we receive from others. And so I just wanted to kind of celebrate your passion for your job. So Mariam is a senior AE at Kickscale. And it also says that she is into AI. She's a mum of two, brand ambassador, etc., etc. So proper she's working very hard, and that's really what the post is about. And I'm not going to read it word for word, but what she's effectively saying is that she chooses to go the extra mile for her job, and she thinks and says that that is one of the reasons why she is one of the top performers in her sales role, is because she does that. And it's not because the company is putting any kind of expectation on her to work over her contracted hours, but it's because she chooses to do that. And she chooses sometimes to work at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, when an idea comes to her, writes it down, drops an email to her boss, etc., etc. And she basically says a top performer doesn't stop reaching for the stars. A top performer wants to prove it to themselves every day. A top performer always goes the extra mile, and a top performer always thinks outside of the box. And so I just kind of wanted to embrace this kind of method or mentality that she's got, that she's a hunter at heart. So she's probably doing a lot of cold calling. She knows what she needs to go after, and she doesn't mind doing that outside of hours. And there's a lot of discussion around it, well, no, you're contracted to work 9 till 5, so you should be doing that, etc., etc. And I actually personally wrote on her post as well, and I said, look, it was 9 o'clock at the night where I was in Bangkok last week, and I was reading it, and I just thought, it's absolutely a choice as well. And if we choose to work more hours, we shouldn't be punished for that. I think the only thing to say is that if you're choosing to work more hours, it shouldn't be because you want to be seen to be working more hours. It should be because you believe that what you're doing is going to affect the outcome that you're looking for, and therefore you're wanting to put it in. I think there's a slippery slope when we get to that point where we feel like it's expected that we're working overtime. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about volunteering, choosing freely to work additional hours. And Leon, I know that you choose to work overtime. I know I choose to work overtime. I know Chris chooses to work overtime. And probably because the three of us own our own companies. And so we're fully and utterly invested. But I'd love to hear like what you think about this and putting in the extra mile or going the extra mile to be that top performer.
So I'm going to kind of disagree with you a little bit. I'm
I
sorry
love a
about
disagreement.
that. We can have a bit of radical candor, can't we? You said you shouldn't want to do it because you want to be seen to be working overtime. I would
Like
suggest
presenteeism.
Yeah, so I would suggest anyone who wants a raise might want to, in the 3 months before they're going to do it, make sure they make loads of noise when they come through the door early, so people can see that. Because that's not a bad way of influence. And I agree with you; it shouldn't be the only reason. You should want to do it. Like you should want to do a good job. We've all put stuff on a list of things we need to do, and then put off doing them things on a list. And then when you do them, you get that real buzz, that dopamine hit, that magic warm fuzzy feeling you get in your belly from doing stuff. And once you get addicted to that kind of stuff, it's a really good reason for it. I think for me, you shouldn't as a business be expecting it. Like young people these days are very protective of the time, which is great. And I think that comes from, I was going to say Aria, I was going to sound like me half fella there when I was a lad. But like my dad used to work 18-hour days. I never used to work as hard as that, but I always worked really hard because I just wanted to get on, and I was really keen to, do stuff. I was first in the office. I was probably last to leave the office, and I wasn't really paid overtime stuff, but I just wanted to do a massively good job. However, if these days, young people who've seen the fact that mental health is a challenge and people have been burnt out, and mental health and burnout wasn't something that existed, as far as I'm aware, 10, 15 years ago. They weren't terms of phrase that people talked about. So I think the challenge for younger people these days is it's gone too far the other way, and they're super protective at the time, and it might actually hamper their ability to move on and move forward with some stuff. And again, I'm not saying you must work outside of your regulated hours. I'm not. But I am saying that if you do, you can do some really good stuff, but it has to be the choice of the person who's doing it and not something that's required from the business.
Yeah. I think that's important. Is if you are a business owner, however large or small, if you're telling your team that there's an expectation that they're working overtime and they're not being paid for that, then I think that's a completely different conversation. And I don't really embrace that kind of working. I guess you and I are similar generations, right, Leon? There's only a couple of years between us. And so I remember when I graduated from uni, everybody got their first graduate jobs, and a ton of us went into graduate schemes. I went to ICI Paints, but others went to like P&G and L'Oreal and Unilever and all these kind of things. And I really remember us all bragging about how late we were working. Like, I just remember it. And it was pure presenteeism. Like, it was almost a badge of honor to like get out of the office at 10 o'clock at night. And that just seemed to be the thing that my group of people and that generation that I hung out in did for quite a long time. And I have to say, now we're in our 40s, that's completely changed. A lot of us have had career changes. We've gone in different directions. We've chosen part-time, or we've chosen to have our own companies, or, all sorts of stuff where we're readdressing that balance. But back then, presenteeism was really a thing. And I am very confident that we were no more effective or efficient than we were if we'd just done our 8 hours a day. Because you get tired, you get distracted, take a longer lunch break because you think you can, or whatever. So I don't necessarily think that we did more work just because we were there for longer. But I do think that it's okay to have a choice, and it's okay to decide that whilst you're sitting in front of the telly, to pop on LinkedIn and write a couple of messages to potential customers, or it's okay to get back to a quick email that you've seen because it just saves you from doing it tomorrow. Like, I have no issue with that at all. I think it's just be conscious of what's effective and efficient rather than just doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah, there's I think it might be an anonymous quote. I can't remember if it's been attributed to someone or something, but I've seen it before where it says, "Going the extra mile, go the extra mile. It's never crowded." So there's a picture of like a road and there's not many people, and when you do that, I often do it in the morning. So like I'll do my extra hours in the morning because I don't get any phone calls, I don't get replies to emails, stuff like that. And that works really well for me. So I can get loads of work done. And, I do a couple of different things. And one of the things that I do, I'm able to work outside of the normal 9 to 5 slog in terms of GMT times. So I can get loads of work done in that time. And it's not crowded. I'm not getting emails back. I'm not getting phone calls back. I'm not getting asked stupid questions. I can just crack on and do some stuff. So but the other reason I mentioned that is the extra mile not being crowded does give you the opportunity to stand out from lots of other people who aren't going the extra mile. You
Yeah,
know,
like
if
it.
you want a customer to be happy, do a little bit extra. It doesn't mean you have to work 4 hours. Just do something extra. Just do something they weren't expecting. Do something nice, and therefore they're going to go, "Well, this is lovely, isn't it?" Because we like gifts, whether it's time or an actual thing or service. We do like being given a little bit extra.
Definitely. Or something creative. I always think back to your cards that you have made, Leon, with different kind of like comedy images on them to get people's attention. That's the extra mile. That's something like that not everybody's doing to stand out from the crowd. So yeah, I think there's lots of stuff we can do.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be working an extra 15 hours a week. That's not necessarily what I read going the extra mile as. It's just doing something different, I guess. So you mentioned the cards. I met with Melissa. So Melissa's from Let's Go Publishing, and she's the absolute brainchild behind these ideas. I sat down with her for a coffee a few years ago and said, I want to do this. And she was like, oh, let me think about it. And then she came up with all these ideas. So it wasn't me, but I met Melissa the other day for a coffee. We haven't seen her for a while. And said these are the other things I want to do. So I'm really excited to see what ideas she comes up with. So shout out to Melissa if Melissa Bragg, her name is, if anyone wants to get some amazing ideas out of their head and into graphic form, should be ace. I've got a couple of posts today, Susie. I'm going to do the first one, and it's relatively short. This one, it's from Lauren Tompkinson. Lauren helps ambitious UK businesses fill their sales pipeline. Who doesn't need that? Cure for all problems is a big fat pipeline. And she just says it's a short one today. And she puts in quotations, we tried cold calling and it did not work. Now, I always laugh at this because it's like I tried the gym and it didn't work. It's like, what did you do? So I went to the gym once and it didn't work. It's a classic thing. She says, I hear this a lot. So I always ask 2 questions back. One, what did the caller actually say? And 2, where did the data come from? She said it's almost never the phone that failed. It's usually one of these 2 things. And obviously that struck a chord with me. I'm an avid cold call advocate, fan, and cold caller. I don't do as much as I should because I've got lots of things on, but I do it as often as I possibly can. And I shared this because I know that you and Chris coach this kind of stuff on a regular basis, and I would love your input on it. Cold calling not working. Whenever I've heard someone say that, they've usually tried it for a day or 2. And it was a Marcus Cauchy. I was on one of his online. He used to do in Zoom. He did let's all get in a Zoom and chat one. And on one of them, he said a line which really stuck with me, and it was like, these prospecting calls that you're making, these are for customers that you might get in the next 3 to 5 years. And it's like, wow. And that's often the thing with cold call and stuff for me. It's like, I'm phoning these people that may or may not be clients in the non too distant future. So I haven't called them for about a year and a half, actually, so I need to. But Moorcroft Solicitors in Liverpool, who are in the same building as me and literally underneath me as I speak to you on this podcast, I've been trying to get their business for the mobile phones for 19, 20 years now.
Wow.
Haven't got it yet. Tried lots of stuff.
You've not got the message.
No, and I've tried lots of stuff. I've taken them away. Taken someone their dad to the races accidentally, but I found out he was from there when he was at the races with me and my mum and dad and that. But this is the thing with prospecting; it's potentially for stuff down the line. So It's not necessarily about stuff right now. So, do you speak to people a lot who say they've tried cold call, it didn't work?
All the time, yeah. There's so many ways I could take this. I think you're absolutely right that when somebody makes a statement, this is kind of like a classic NLP technique as well. So one of the things that we as humans are quite good at doing is over exaggerating as well. So we say, oh, I've never had any success. They always hang up. They never answer. Like these extremes, always, never. And something that we can do as a coach or as the sales manager is to actually dig into the statement and say, always, like, can you think of a time when that didn't happen or it did happen? Or can you think of a time when there was a different outcome? Or when was the last time that it wasn't that case? Like, and they'll pretty much regularly be instances where they have had success and they've just kind of like bunched it all together in this always or never statement. So that's kind of a technique that's come from my NLP practitioner training, actually, was to pick up on language and how people are describing it. Here she's not using that, right? She's saying, we tried cold calling and it did not work. I'd be like, tell me exactly what you did. How many calls did you make? Who made those calls? What did they say? What was said? What was the data you used, etc.? So really interrogate the statement to understand whether they tried it, how long they tried it for, what they did when they were trying it, because you need all of that information before you can make a decision as to whether that statement's true or not. So I think interrogate the detail is something to do. And yeah, we do hear it all the time. And often one of the things we hear is, I haven't got time for cold calling. Yeah. Like that's one of the struggles that people have. It's like, yeah, we tried it. It's not the most effective. So we've gone back to emailing 10,000 people a week instead. And then you can interrogate again and say, well, how many responses do you get from that? How many meetings do you get booked? Often it's often an untrue statement because they've taken it out of context. So interrogate, dig deeper, find out more to find out what's behind the statement before you kind of accept it as not working.
Good coaching, Susie. Good coaching.
I feel like I just repeated what you said, actually, so I'm not too sure.
I don't think that you did. Last post for us today, Susie, is from Thomas Stuckey. So he says, in sales, artificial intelligence doesn't work. Wow, that's a statement. Ooh. I hadn't noticed that before on his LinkedIn thing, so I'll have to check him out and see if what he's talking about. He's made the statement that I often hear, both positive and negatively, which is, he says sales is not a numbers game, and he's capitalized NOT for not, so that means it must be right. He says, I've spent 20 years working in sales and marketing. One saying that seems universal, no matter the company, is sales is a numbers game. When I hear someone say that, what I'm actually hearing is, let's play the odds that if we make enough calls or send enough emails, the law of probability will mean we'll close something. Am I the only one who thinks this seems a little lazy, leaving it up to some math equation and automation that sounds like it was written by a CRM? He does go on to mention some other stuff. Numbers are really important, like close rate, deal size, referrals, retention, etc. But I wanted to have a chat to you about the numbers games thing because I do like discussing it. So for me, sales is a numbers game, but not the numbers game that Thomas is pertaining to, which is throw enough stuff at the wall and see how it goes. When I say sales is a numbers game, what I mean is the more you do it, the better you get it. The better you get it, the less you'll have to do it. So it is a numbers game. So like, for instance, when I talk about like a call or a meeting, I always am of the understanding that this is just a practice for the next one. Every call, every meeting, every interaction is just a practice for another one. So therefore, sales is a numbers game because the more that you do it, the more likely you are to succeed. I think what he is pertaining to here is that it's that spray and pray method, which is chuck enough shit at the wall and it'll come back to you. It's funny because maybe our listeners may or may not see if they're not watching on the video, but I'm pretty sure the messages just popped up on mine is probably a spray and pray method. I'd be very surprised if a LinkedIn spray and pray method.
Well, we'll let you check that in a minute when you're not sharing a screen, just so that yes. The poor person doesn't get embarrassed if it is or isn't. But so I think it's really difficult to say it is or it isn't a numbers game. What Thomas is talking about here is volume, right? So effectively, he's challenging the more calls you make, the more success you're going to have. And there is correlation So if you're making good calls, if you can make more of them, you can probably and you've got a good conversion rate of those, then that should theoretically lead to more conversions. But you're right. If you're just calling the neighbour's cat and you're just calling for the sake of it, that is not going to bring you more sales. So it needs to be interrogated again. I think that's going to be my word for the day, is interrogation.
Yes.
And later down in the post, Thomas talks about, there are numbers that count those. So increasing your volume can certainly help if you know what your numbers are. And he's listed a few here, like your close rate, your deal size, referrals, etc. And just a simple way to look at it is, where are you winning and losing along the way? So I'm just going to give a shout out to one of our coaches, Adrian. Adrian, it was a real pleasure to watch you in a coaching session this week. And Adrian was interrogating the pipeline at the time. So he was speaking to the sales manager and he was like, right, so imagine you've got 100 leads that come into your funnel at the top, and you've got 5 stages of your particular pipeline, like discovery and sending the deal, sending the quote, etc., like in your CRM. He's like, if you've got 100 at the beginning, how many have you got by the time you get to that discovery call? Like, is it 90? Is it 9? Like, where is it? Because if you don't, and what he was doing was he was trying to help the sales manager to understand where the leaky bucket was. Like, basically, where are you losing the potential? Is it between lead to discovery call, or is it right near the end when you're making that final proposal? Because if you can understand that, you can know where to put your efforts in, and whether it's a volume thing at the beginning or whether it's more of a quality thing near the end of the pipeline. So I think it's not a volume game, but it's knowing your numbers, because when you know your numbers and you tweak or increase that volume, knowing the quality, then you can then increase your outcome, I think. So yeah, there's many ways to look at it, but I feel like I've just waffled on about.
You always say that when you deliver something really amazing, Susie. So fuck off. Stop trying to fish for compliments. The other point on this, like when I was first in sales management, one of the best things I learned was to know my numbers. So I ran a few spreadsheets. So literally after the guys came out of all of the meetings, I would input that data. So like within 20 minutes, half an hour of stuff happening, I had all of that information. So when I seen that, our set to set, i.e. how many meetings are set up between how many of them actually happen, when I seen that dropped, I could move next door and have a chat with the guys who are making calls or listen to a few calls and go, yeah, we just need to tighten up on the confirmation and stuff like that so we can make sure the set to set went up. So that's the other side of it, that knowing a numbers game is really important, is knowing your numbers in sales is kind of the most important element of it. I had a chat with Tom from Adventure Code, who was in today, and he's trying to build his business and he's looking at doing some really cool stuff with his. And I was like, yeah, once we know what the numbers are, then we can start messing with those taps so that we know that the right numbers fall through. But if we chuck loads of stuff in at the start without knowing what the dropout and all the other numbers are, then we are kind of just pissing into the wind, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Good chat. You want a theme, don't you? Because you love a good theme, Susie. So let's have a look. So we had my laptop's
we had the
dead
boob
slow,
babes.
so we did. So first off, we had some boobs.
Booth, not boobs.
Yeah, but we had boobs, didn't we? It was talking about Miss America. First up, we had boobs. Then we had loving the job but not working too hard. Then we had cold calling doesn't work. Then we had cold callers and not a numbers game. So a theme for today is boobs, numbers,
Passion for the job.
boobs, numbers, and passion.
There we go.
There
what
you
an
go.
Interesting theme.
So if you want to listen to more boobs, numbers, and passion, join us next at Dunk, because that's not what we do usually. There's not usually any of that kind of stuff, to be fair. It's usually very clever and really interesting. But look, if you've seen a post on social media you like that you think we should have a conversation about, just share that, improve at thesalesdojo.com, and we'll have a good look and a good chinwag. If you want more Susie in your life, and who doesn't, check out thesmallstuff.de or check it out on LinkedIn. Chris is also on LinkedIn, as am I. Chris's website is 6thdoor.com, and you can find out some more about the Sales Dojo at www.thesalesdojo.com.